Today's Friday, June 20th, and you're listening to episode number 25 of the DogHouse podcast.
From DogHouseSystems.com, this is the DogHouse podcast.
All right, we'd like to welcome everybody back to the DogHouse podcast. Again, this is episode number 25, and happy first day of summer, guys.
Woohoo!
Ready for the nice warm weather to start hitting us again?
No.
Me either. But it is what it is. So
At least it's not triple digits yet, but
yet. I think that's more like towards July
and August.
September.
October.
Sometimes. But Lorenzo loves this weather. It's his favorite time of year.
Yeah, I love forgetting to put up the sunshade on my car and getting in and it being an oven inside. Yeah.
And first degree burn on your hands from the steering wheel.
Oh, yeah.
On your legs.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and jump on into Bark Bits. We've got a good number of stories to go through today, and let's go ahead and do it.
All right. So earlier this month, Apple did their Worldwide Developers Conference, which they do every June. And if you don't pay attention to what they announce, typically in June they do software, and then in September they announce hardware. So this year, Apple announced iOS 26 for all of their platforms, their iPads, computers, watches, TVs, all of that.
I'm glad they're doing that. It was hard to kind of keep track of everything.
Yeah, so iOS 26 actually will correlate to the year that you will have the iOS. So this will be for next year. But the biggest thing with iOS 26 is aimed at parents. So there's a lot of new safety features for parents to control their kids' chats, apps, and a lot more. So during setup of your kid's phone, tablet, whatever, kids under the age of 13 will be assigned a child account. Teens from 13 to 17 will be subjected to age-appropriate restrictions, even if they have just a standard account. There'll be a family group for kids where basically you can share an age range. So you don't have to share birthdays anymore. With Apple, you can share that your kid is between the age of 13 to 17 without actually giving their birthday away. They also have on the App Store age ratings now. So if you have a kid that is 13 but under the age of 16, there's games specifically in categories for them.
Cool.
So you're not wondering what games your kids are downloading.
There was one mention in the story about parents getting better control of from a chat standpoint. And I think that as a parent would be very appealing to me. So as an example, you get this random text from somebody that they don't know. It's a random number. In fact, I got one yesterday that just said, "Hey, hope you're doing well. This is John, right?" And I'm like, I don't know who that person is. So immediately block. But, for a kid, they may not know who, they may fall for it. So apparently, if I'm understanding this correctly, is they don't get to reply. The parent gets the notification. Yeah. That is good.
Kids have to request permission from their parents for message and FaceTime contacts.
Cool.
So it'll pop up in messages for the parent, and then the parent will be able to go in and approve or deny the contact for them.
Is there a no to all? I'm just kidding.
They also have web filters and restrictions that extend to the age of 17. And there's an automatic blur on FaceTime and shared albums if there is something that kids should not be seeing.
Interesting.
So all of this will be available for iPad, macOS Tahoe, Watch, Vision, and TV when that all rolls out this fall.
Nice.
So if you're in the Grapevine area of DFW, which is not too far from here, you might see a out of stock for the Switch 2s for a little bit.
I think we're going to see out of stock everywhere, no matter what.
Yeah,
but especially in the Grapevine area.
For this one GameStop store in Grapevine, 2,810 Nintendo Switch 2s were stolen off the back of a truck in Colorado. It's estimated that the entire pallets that were stolen were worth $1.4 million. The story is that it was at a truck stop in Colorado while transporting the units from Washington to Texas. And during a routine inspection on the 8th, 3 days after the Switch went live, the driver discovered the missing pallets in his truck, which they are treating as a felony cargo theft investigation. So the warning that we have and that these news articles have is that if you see a Switch 2 on the market for really cheap, or it doesn't come from an official source, please be aware that it could potentially be banned or bricked by Nintendo at some point when they do figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, if you would think if they got the serial number range of all of those stolen ones, the first thing they're going to do is just immediately brick them. Mm-hmm. And that's already happening to folks, not necessarily because of stolen ones, but it kind of goes to another story of these backed up games that people are using from, I believe it was a cartridge that you could get that was...
it's the MIG Flash. I forget the actual name, but you can, quote unquote, back up your games onto that and then cycle through your copied games on that device, and they're already banning people who've used that device.
Yeah, and apparently doing a hard reset of your device doesn't clear that ban. I mean, it's like a perma ban. So folks, don't do that. And like you just said, Abby, if you see one that looks mysteriously cheap, just follow the adage. If it's too good to be true, then it probably is.
Please go through official channels to purchase a Switch 2. I know it's expensive, but that's the only way to ensure that you are not going to receive something that will potentially crap out on you because it's been bricked.
Right.
Interesting side note to all this, thinking of that MIG switch. So the way that works is by copying the unique ID of the cartridge that you're copying. What does that do to used physical game sales? If you go and buy a used game at GameStop or movie trading company still around, or online, can you potentially be banned for using that physical cartridge, which is a legitimate cartridge, but has the image from that has been copied to a MIG switch or some other device that copies physical games?
Would there be a signature left on that on the actual game cartridge?
Yeah, each cartridge has its own serial number, from what I understand.
Oh,
and now with digital games, each copy has its own serial number because you can load and unload virtual game cards of your virtual games and lend them out to people. So yeah, that seems like it may destroy secondhand used physical game sales. Yeah.
So for you, do you typically go for...
Switch has been mostly all digital unless there's a game that my wife and I both want to play. Then we'll buy the digital game on the account we share, and then on her Switch she'll have the physical game.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, that's kind of been the same approach, just going digital. Mm-hmm. That could be terrible for somebody, that legitimately bought something like from Half Price Books or like some secondary market. Shoot, you think about eBay.
Yeah,
it's a huge market.
Oh yeah. And you plug a game in, you're excited to play, and instantly you're banned, and your Switch is essentially bricked from that point on.
I wonder if it's a two-step thing though that is happening. Like, is Nintendo able to detect anything from that MIG switch thing, or?
I don't know. I don't think they've made public how they're doing it, but the way the MIG switch got around the protections on the original Switch, or that flash cart, was that it would copy the whole, like basically if you're on a PC creating an ISO of that with the digital signature of that disc, or not disc, cartridge in this case. Yeah.
Wow.
In more sad Nintendo news, Pokemon players say they've lost years of gameplay due to Switch 2 save data transfer issues. I don't know if this is specific to the Switch 2. It may just be a result of Nintendo's unwillingness to have a cohesive backup system for games. So, John, you've played quite a bit of Animal Crossing on the original Switch. Mm-hmm. Have you moved your island to another Switch?
I have not.
Okay. So originally we were a one Switch household, and my wife got really into Animal Crossing, and then we got a second Switch. We got a second Switch for her to play on, and we had to move her island. Just signing into her account on that second Switch does not move the island. There is an island transfer tool.
Okay.
So you have to install that on, I believe, both Switches and move the island over. Instead of it just being you sign into your account and your island is available on that Switch, like something with, Blizzard app or Battle.net or Steam or GOG, any of these online marketplaces that we take for granted on the PC side, or even just copying over your save file.
Yeah.
There's an extra step involved, and it seems that Pokemon has something similar with Pokemon Home, where for free you can save 30 of your Pokemon, but if you pay $15.99 a year, you can save up to, I think, 6,000. Mm-hmm. And if you don't do that, all of your progress is gone.
You would think,
which is crazy.
Yeah, you would think there'd be some kind of cloud backup.
There is. If you subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online, cloud backup applies, but only to specific games, and not all of the data from every game is applied. So even if your save game is the state of your save game, your island may not, or your Pokemon may not, and it's just a whole fragmented mess, it seems like, at least on Switch and now Switch 2. Just a little frustrating for I've chosen to go mostly digital on that. So, and even then, I don't think if you have a physical cartridge, it's not like in the Game Boy or Game Boy Advance era where it was saved on a battery-backed EEPROM on the chip. It's now a save file located just on your console. And if that's not backed up in your console, especially on a handheld device, if that's lost or damaged.
Yeah, you would think part of that transfer utility would have a safeguard to have a solid backup ahead of time, just in case something like this was to happen.
You would think so.
Maybe version 2
nice.
Will.
I doubt it.
You don't think so?
With as much as so Pokemon Company and Nintendo are charging for backing up your Pokemon, Nintendo is separately charging for backing up your save file, and then you have to use different tools to move different amounts of parts of that data. It's like,
that feels wrong.
It does, yeah. And on Steam specifically, they've gone as far as with the release of the Steam Deck, when you save in game and the Steam client detects that save has been updated, it doesn't wait until you finish the game to upload your changed game save to the Steam server. It does it right then and there. So if you're playing live on two devices, your game save should, if everything's working properly, be updated in real time.
Okay.
As opposed to have to go and download a utility, copy everything over, hope it's all there. And it seems like it's removing the data from the old Switch and not moving it to the new one, which is even worse.
Yeah, because when it's gone, it's gone.
I would 100% cry. I feel so bad for this.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the hundreds of hours.
Yeah, years
the
and years.
20 years of Pokemon collecting she has done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that... And there's a quote in there from them saying, I don't know if I'll even play anymore.
Yeah.
I don't blame them.
No.
Yeah,
There was also a comment on the original Reddit thread that said that it wasn't just Pokemon exclusive, that there were other games that that people have had to start over.
Oh yeah, if you haven't backed up your island or moved your island with an island transfer tool and your Switch is broken or lost, your island is gone on Animal Crossing.
Oof.
I'd cry.
Yeah.
That could be obviously a lot of work there too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And maybe a little happier news for PC gamers and Xbox gamers. Microsoft's next-gen Xbox has an AMD chip inside, like the current lineup does. But the interesting thing that Microsoft has come out and said is that it's not locked to a single store, which has people very excited that maybe Epic Games, GOG, Steam might be available on the next series of Xbox devices. Additionally to this, the Microsoft Xbox team and Windows team are apparently working more closely together to streamline Windows for gaming, which could be great even for desktop gamers, even for DogHouse Systems customers. So reduced RAM usage and an all-in-one launcher to just get you right into the game without having to load up the desktop experience or anything else that you might not need when you're gaming. Now you might have, YouTube video or Netflix on one screen and your game on another, and Discord chat or Spotify on another. So if that's still the style of gameplay that you're going for, if you're just hanging out generally, that Xbox all-in-one interface isn't going to be for you. But maybe the efficiency increases that they brought with that increased code or more efficient code base might help.
Yeah, I think there's some people that would definitely enjoy that, having that feature.
Yeah. In hardware news, a recent alleged leak has shown off Intel's Nova Lake S with up to 52 cores on the higher end Ultra 9 part. So that would be 16 high performance Coyote Cove cores and 32 energy efficient Arctic Wolf cores and 4 low power Arctic Wolf cores. So we just turned all the dials to 11 and just given you every possible way of squeezing performance out of your CPU.
Intel said, crank it up.
Yeah. So if these leaks are true, that would be pretty cool. Up to DDR5 8000 CU DIMMs and increased PCI 5 lane availability. Probably still going to see motherboard designs with one slot for the graphics card, one slot for an expansion card, and then a bunch of M.2 would be my guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. Again, this is all rumored, nothing official, but if it is true, that poses well for Intel, I think.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I'd be interested to see if those actually can stay within their power targets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Continuing the hardware news, AMD has unveiled 2nm EPYC Venice with up to 256 cores per CPU. These are not desktop CPUs like the leaks we just talked about from Intel. This is AMD officially announcing server parts with up to 256 cores per socket, which is pretty cool.
Imagine if you were running Windows Server.
The licensing.
The core licensing would be awful.
So for those of you that don't know, you have to pay per core for Windows Server. Minimum of 16, and you pay more for every set of 2 cores after that. So I'd like to see the side panel of a system licensed for that many cores.
It'd be like a NASCAR.
each additional set of 2 or 4 cores has an additional sticker on it. If you've seen your Windows certificate of authenticity in your system, imagine a ton of those.
That feels I don't know how to feel silly. About that.
You'd have 64 of those 4-pack 4-core licenses.
That's it. Yeah, if you can find the 4-pack. If you can only find the 2-pack, you'd have 128 of those 2-packs. Yeah.
Would you have to input the codes each time? Like if...
There's not a way to enter the code, but the system needs to be physically licensed for those.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's nowhere in the operating system you'll enter those codes. You just enter the base license activation key.
That's a great question. But thankfully, you don't have to type in that long 20-some character deal.
But you had better have those stickers on your physical machine.
If you ever got audited, you definitely want to have those on there.
Yeah, make sure they are present and visible.
Yep.
All right. In some space news, SpaceX's next rival is Honda. So the car manufacturer is starting to dive into satellite to become a satellite provider. They have successfully launched and landed an experimental reusable rocket that hit 900 feet and then came back down.
Safely. Landed.
Safely. Yeah. They released the video of the launch, which happened earlier this week in Japan. It lasted about a minute, and it touched down fairly well.
I think they said within about a foot of its, or a couple feet from its target
Yeah, 14 and a half inches of the target touchdown.
That's
point.
awesome.
It is dubbed the reusable launch vehicle. It's a relatively small rocket at about 20.6 feet, weighing almost 2,900 pounds with the fuel. So a lot lighter without it. It's nowhere near matching SpaceX's vehicle, which is 230 feet in height and has completed 500 space missions.
Well, that's a good first step for them.
But
they've been in the aeronautical space for some time now, because you actually have the Honda Jet that's been built for some time. So not a huge surprise, but they do some pretty cool stuff, and this is a neat story.
Yeah, they're aiming to achieve a suborbital launch by 2029.
I want to do something kind of fun with on the AI side of things in the health news, and we actually have a couple stories. And the first one I'm going to talk about is this gentleman that is 45 years old, and he has ALS, and such a terrible disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, and over time he had lost the ability to speak, but now he can talk again thanks to a brain implant paired with AI. So these researchers implanted 256 electrodes into his brain speech center, and the system is able to read his neural signals and decode them in real time, just 10 milliseconds, which is just phenomenal. And even cooler is I thought, okay, so he's going to have some kind of robotic voice, but through the AI, they're actually recreating his voice using AI trained on old recordings of him before he was diagnosed with ALS. He is able to enunciate, but it up to this point, he would have to have parts of his care team that could really pick up on what he was saying to essentially translate to the rest of the family. And now it's able to pick up from those patterns and the inflections and even emotion and translate all of that out, even to the point of melody. He can actually sing. That just, to me, is incredible.
That is so cool.
You know, going from not having people be able to understand you, essentially going back to full communication with folks. And he was able to do that training out of his home. And I just think that is an incredible usage of AI, and I hope that this is something that could be ramped up and become more available to many, many people. And on another side of the news is AI-powered hearing aids, and they're helping also folks be able to reconnect with the world. And there's a company called Beltone. They have these new Envision aids. They're some of the smallest in the world, and they use dual microchips to suppress thousands of distracting sounds while boosting the voices you want to hear. And I could only imagine, I've never had to use a hearing aid, but you would think with a traditional one, you know, it works obviously with voice, but let's say you're in a restaurant and, you know, the clinking of silverware on that, I would imagine that's got to be very disruptive, and probably even makes it much more difficult to hear human voices as a result of that. Well, this story is about a gentleman named Doug Fraser. He's a grandfather of 23 little grandkiddos. Oh. That's amazing. And he said he was struggling to hear his wife and grandchildren with the old aids. But he said, I hear my new granddaughter if she's in the other room crying. And it makes a huge difference going from a good hearing aid to a really, really good hearing aid. So again, these can distinguish speech from background clutter, and lowers the noise of those type of things, and it brings the vocal conversations forward. And on top of that, they have an app that can let you tweak it even a little bit more to make some optimizations on the fly for those users. So thought that was really cool.
I love it when AI does good work.
Yeah, me too.
I hope that man is thriving with his 23 grandchildren now.
I know, me too. So I'm so happy for him, and I'm happy for the future of folks that, are going to have better hearing aids than we've had up to this point.
Them and those with the ALS as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and hop into segment number 2, which is Tech Treats.
So if you're a fan of Sega Retro Classics on iOS and Android, make sure you grab these 9 games before Sega discontinues support for them, possibly removing them from the App Store. So Crazy Taxi Classic, Streets of Rage Classic, Streets of Rage 2 Classic, Super Monkey Ball Soccer Edition, Virtua Tennis Challenge, Golden Axe Classics, Shining Force Classics, Sonic CD Classic, and Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 2. So make sure you download those if you want to continue to play them or continue to play them on your iOS or Android device.
That is awesome. Yeah. I appreciate you bringing that one up because I used to have a Dreamcast. And Crazy Taxi was a very fun game on there, and we used to play that a lot. So that was one of the first ones I downloaded. We also had Virtua Tennis Challenge and Super Monkey Ball. So definitely brought back some memories. I had never played Shining Force Classics, but it's a RPG and kind of an old school 2D one. And I went ahead and grabbed that after you had mentioned that.
If you were a fan of Factorio, there is a fantasy-themed alternative for you. If you also like fantasy games, Moatmancer has a demo out now, and looks pretty interesting. It is all about efficiency and building the most efficient base to create anything your mind can design. Just like Factorio, spend lots of times organizing and reorganizing and making sure all of your production is as efficient as possible as you, I guess, not tech up your tech tree, but maybe your magic tree in this game. So check it out, that Moatmancer.
Lorenzo and I were scrolling through some of the demo games that had come out from the Summer Game Fest that happened earlier this month with Steam. If you don't know what that is, basically Steam encourages developers to post demos of their games coming out so people can try them out, see if they're interested in wanting to get the real game, get the full game and all that stuff. And one of them that I actually saw this one and I was like, I feel like this one could be so fun to play. It's called Escape from Duck-Off. It is a single player top-down shooter where you gather supplies in Duck-Off to build your hideout and enhance your combat skills. But be cautious of enemies. If you're defeated, you'll lose your gear. But with a solid infrastructure, you'll make a quick comeback. The free demo is on Steam and will be released sometime in 2025.
If you're looking for something with a little more combat as opposed to weapons combat and gravity mechanics and puzzles, Metro Gravity is an excellent game. So in this game, you explore, fight, solve puzzles, and bend gravity to escape the dreamlike world of the halls. Metro Gravity is a mind-boggling musical adventure with rhythmic combat and compelling lore. So I actually played a little bit of the demo on this a little while ago. It's pretty cool. You can lock gravity, but if you don't have gravity locked, you can walk onto a wall or onto the ceiling, and then you can lock gravity in that position. So you basically set your down direction. Okay. So if you walk onto a wall, set down, that is now the floor, and gravity will affect everything with respect to that. And you can also set gravity pull areas, so you can pull things towards a certain spot. So if you walk onto a pillar, lock your gravity, then set a gravity pull on the ceiling, you can pull that pillar up while you're still on that.
Oh,
if
cool.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the combat and some of the movement are tied to the metronome or the rhythm of the backing track. So for boss battles, you want to parry on the beats, and there's low metronome to help you with that too. For a small indie game, it is pretty cool.
So cool.
Put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a free demo on Steam, and it released yesterday, June 19th.
Huh. Party rockin'. Yeah. Go check it out. I don't know about y'all, but I watched all of the Lord of the Rings movies and the Hobbit movies. Mm-hmm. I think that they are so great. And as I was going through Steam, I found this has probably been out for a while. And I'm sorry if anyone's like This has been out for a while. Why are you talking about this? Lord of the Rings Return to Moria is the only survival crafting game set in the 4th age of Middle Earth.
It's a very specific accolade to give yourself. Yeah.
Embark on an epic journey to reclaim the dwarven homeland of Moria and explore, craft, and build in procedurally generated worlds. Play as a solo adventurer or join friends in a co-op gameplay up to 8 players.
I remember when it first came out. It's not that old. It came out late 2023. So
okay.
Yeah, it's a relatively newer game. One that I held off on getting because I'm like you. I've read all of the trilogy and as well as The Hobbit as a kid. I've read it and reread it, loved it, enjoyed the movies. But this now with it on sale, I might actually give it a shot.
Yeah. I like it because, you don't see much of Moria in the movies, but I think in this game you see all of it. And you're just like, wow.
Very cool.
So it is on sale until June 26th and is 40% off.
Yeah.
Yep. Good deal.
On Steam.
We've got one game on Epic that is free for this week, and it's called The Operator. And I like their description. It says, welcome to the FDI, not the FBI, but the FDI.
FDI.
Yeah. As our newest operator, your role is to use your detective skills to assist our field agents and investigate mysterious crimes. Use cutting-edge FDI software to dig for clues, solve puzzles, and uncover the truth. So that looks like it might be a fun little game.
This one is rated T for teens.
Yeah, almost kind of like a Mission Impossible vibe, but maybe worth giving a shot. Well, and again, you don't have to pay for it. So if you don't like it, you can delete it. But it is free to play. Normally it's $15. So good deal. Let's go ahead and hop into Pack Talk. So this time, instead of having a technical support question, I thought we would talk a little bit about a little story about this gentleman that took care of his own situation. So we got an email the other day from Diane. She's a longtime customer of ours. And I just felt like it was a real heartwarming story when I shared it with Abby. And 14 years ago, Diane purchased an Armor ES from us. She loved playing World of Warcraft on it back in the day. And about 3 years ago or so, we heard back from her, and basically she knew it was a little bit older system at that point, being about 10, 11 years old. But she wanted to see if we could breathe a little bit of life into it so that her grandson, Leon, could continue using it. And we did some things. I think we swapped out the motherboard, CPU, memory, and I believe a graphics card. Well, Leon and his sister have been getting into Roblox, but they were having some support or some performance issues with it on the graphics side because I think the card that we put in at the time was kind of a real entry-level card. So he started getting on ChatGPT and online, and he did a ton of research, and he figured out that an RTX 3060 would give him the best bang for the buck based on the system that he had. So he got it, and then he installed it completely on his own. And I thought that was so cool. In fact, I think he ran into a little bit of a hiccup. He was missing the cable, might have been a power cable to a power supply. I'm not 100% sure on that, but he got back on ChatGPT and figured out what it was that he needed, ordered it, and then he was able to successfully get it installed. So now his sister and him are going to spend the summer building their own game in Roblox.
Nice.
Which I think, how awesome is that? Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was a really cool story to share. And now that the kids are up and running, I think maybe Diane ought to be able to consider getting back into gaming. So I think they're middle school age now, and I think it might be an opportunity for her to be able to get back into some WoW or something else. Who knows? But at the end of the day, just having this as a reminder, knowing we get to play a small part in helping families create, to be able to play games and ultimately have an opportunity to grow together through the computers that we build, I think that's just awesome. So, Leon, we can't wait to hear about your Roblox game that you and your sister end up making this summer. So keep us posted. We want to know about it, and we'll share it with our podcast listeners in the future. Congratulations. We're really proud of you.
That is so cool.
I think it's really awesome.
Yeah.
So I think this pretty much wraps up this episode. And Abby, if you wouldn't mind letting our listeners know of the different ways that they can get a hold of us.
Yeah, you can send us an email at podcast@doghousesystems.com. You can leave us a voicemail at 972-810-4347. Or you can send us a DM on social media, Instagram, Facebook, X, and Threads at DogHouse Systems.
Excellent. So this wraps up our episode. And also we got permission from Diane to post a picture of Leon actually doing the installation of that RTX 3060. So we'll have that as part of our, the show notes.
Yeah, go give some love to him.
Yeah, absolutely. So check that out. And we'll be back in a couple more weeks. And we'll suffer through a little bit of heat as it keeps getting there.
It's going to be, I think, in the 90s.
Yeah.
I feel like we're always just talking about the weather.
I know. I kind of thought the same thing as well. So, changing the subject, do you have any exciting plans this weekend?
My dad and I are heading up to the farm.
Nice.
We're going to go hang out there and get some stuff done. So,
you need to get some farm animals.
We're close.
Awesome.
We're close. So,
well, no major plans for myself.
Yeah.
How about you, Lorenzo?
None here.
That's a good thing, though.
Yeah.
Are you going to keep playing Night Rain?
Probably. Yeah. We've been playing quite a bit lately.
I think we need to get Robert maybe on the next podcast because both he and Lorenzo have been playing it.
Oh, yeah.
Making some good progress. So it might be good to get an update from both of y'all. Good stuff. Well, appreciate everybody listening. And again, if y'all have anything that you would like for us to feature on a future podcast, reach out to us. Let us know. And until then, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. Y'all take care.